The day after my father's funeral, my brother changed the locks. No warning, no discussion, no shame. I stood outside the glass doors of Carter Holdings in the same black dress I had worn to bury our father, staring at the security guard who suddenly refused to meet my eyes. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said quietly. I was given direct instructions. By who? I already knew the answer. Still, hearing it hurt. Mr. Ethan Carter. My brother. The same brother who had cried beside me at the graveside just 24 hours earlier. The same brother who held my hand while we watched them lower Dad into the ground. And apparently, the same brother who wasted no time claiming everything. I tightened my grip on my bag. This is my father's company too. The guard looked uncomfortable. I understand, but your access card has been deactivated. Of course it had. I stared through the glass doors into the lobby I had practically grown up in. The marble floors my father imported from Italy. The gold company emblem mounted on the wall. The reception desk where I used to sit after school, doing homework while Dad finished meetings upstairs. I belonged here. But, according to Ethan, not anymore. A familiar voice came from behind the doors. Let her in. Ethan stepped into view, perfectly dressed in a navy suit, already looking like the CEO he had decided he was. The guard unlocked the door. I walked in slowly. Ethan gave me a thin smile. You should have called first. I laughed bitterly. I need permission to enter my father's building now. He folded his arms. It's not your building. The words landed like ice. I stared at him. Excuse me? He took a slow breath, like he had been rehearsing this. Dad is gone. Someone needs to take control before the board starts panicking. And you decided that someone was you? He didn't even blink. I'm the oldest. I felt anger rise in my chest. That's your reason? It's the practical reason. No, I said sharply. It's the sexist reason. His jaw tightened. Don't make this about that. How can I not? I shot back. I've worked here for 7 years. I built the European division from the ground up. And I appreciate that. The calmness in his voice only made it worse. But leadership requires a certain presence. I stared at him in disbelief. Say it. He looked away. You know what Dad's old-school investors are like. I let out a short laugh. So, because I'm a woman, you think they won't take me seriously? He stayed silent. And that silence told me everything. He believed it. Maybe he had always believed it. Maybe every congratulation, every fake smile, every great job, sis, had always come with the assumption that one day he would take the credit. I stepped closer. Dad trained both of us. Ethan nodded. Yes. So, why do you think this belongs to you? He looked me dead in the eye. Because he would have wanted it that way. The betrayal in that sentence cut deeper than anything else. Because he was using our father's memory to justify his greed. I shook my head slowly. You have no idea what Dad wanted. Ethan gave a small, smug smile. Actually, I do. Then he pulled out a folder. The board appointment papers. Temporary acting CEO. Signed that morning. By 3 board members loyal to him. My stomach dropped. He had moved fast. Too fast. Like this had been planned. You did this before the funeral was even over, didn't you? I asked quietly. He didn't answer. Again, that silence. I should have walked out. I should have screamed. But instead, I did something that surprised even me. I smiled. Because Ethan had just made the same mistake people always make. He underestimated patience. He underestimated preparation. And most importantly, he underestimated Dad. The truth is, my father was many things. Demanding, brilliant, old-fashioned in ways that frustrated me. But one thing he was never careless about was legacy. 3 months before he died, when the doctors told him the cancer had spread, he called me into his study. The room smelled like old leather and coffee. He looked tired, but his mind was sharp. Your brother thinks succession is about bloodline, he said. I remember blinking in surprise. What do you think it's about? He smiled faintly. Wisdom. Then he handed me a sealed envelope. If Ethan ever tries to force control, he said quietly, give this to Mr. Wallace. Mr. Wallace, Dad's personal attorney. At the time, I didn't fully understand. Now, standing in the lobby while Ethan wore confidence like a crown, I finally did. I looked at my brother. Congratulations, I said calmly. His smile widened slightly. Thank you. I adjusted my bag on my shoulder. I hope you enjoy your first day as acting CEO. His eyes narrowed. You're taking this surprisingly well. I gave him the same calm smile. Oh, Ethan. I stepped toward the exit. You have no idea what Dad left behind. By noon, Ethan had already started acting like the king of Carter Holdings. He moved into Dad's office, held an emergency leadership meeting, even sent out a company-wide email signed, Ethan Carter, acting CEO. I read it while sitting in Mr. Wallace's office. The sealed envelope Dad gave me was now open on the desk between us. And the moment the lawyer finished reading it, he smiled, a slow, knowing smile. Well, he said, adjusting his glasses, your father certainly knew his son. I leaned forward. What does it say? Mr. Wallace slid the final page toward me. It was a handwritten clause attached to Dad's succession trust. A legal condition. Simple, devastating, and absolutely brilliant. My breath caught as I read it. The company may only pass to the child who successfully completes the final competency review designed by the founder. I looked up. What? Mr. Wallace nodded. Your father anticipated a power struggle. I almost laughed. Of course he did. Dad had built a billion-dollar company from nothing. He knew people. He especially knew Ethan. There's more, Mr. Wallace said. He pointed to the second paragraph. Any child who assumes leadership without completing the review automatically disqualifies themselves. The room went silent. Then I smiled, because Ethan had already signed documents this morning as acting CEO. He had already taken the office, already made executive decisions, already publicly claimed control. He had walked directly into the trap. So what happens now? I asked. Mr. Wallace stood up. We call the board. The emergency board meeting started at 4 p.m. Ethan was sitting at the head of the long walnut table when I walked in beside Mr. Wallace. The confidence on his face was almost painful to watch, because I knew it was about to disappear. He frowned when he saw the lawyer. What's this? Mr. Wallace calmly placed the trust papers on the table. Your father's final succession clause. The room shifted immediately. Board members leaned forward. Ethan's expression changed from annoyance to confusion. What clause? I folded my arms. The one you forgot to ask about before crowning yourself. His jaw tightened. Mr. Wallace began reading aloud. By the time he reached the second paragraph, the color drained from Ethan's face. No, he said immediately. That's ridiculous. A senior board member cleared his throat. Is this legally binding? Mr. Wallace nodded. Fully notarized and attached to the succession trust. Ethan stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. This is insane. I met his eyes calmly. No. What's insane is assuming Dad would hand everything to you because you're older. His voice rose. I'm his son, and I'm his daughter. The silence after that sentence was sharp. Then Mr. Wallace delivered the final blow. Mr. Ethan Carter has already disqualified himself by assuming executive authority before completing the founder's review. A gasp moved around the table. Ethan looked stunned. No. He turned to the board desperately. You can't be serious. But the board members weren't looking at him anymore. They were looking at me. One of them spoke first. Miss Carter, are you prepared to take the founder's competency review? I smiled. Yes. Because, unlike Ethan, I had already completed it. 3 weeks before Dad died. In secret. Every scenario. Every negotiation test. Every crisis simulation. Dad had personally supervised all of it. He had known exactly who was ready. Mr. Wallace handed over the signed results. Passed with distinction. The room erupted in whispers. Ethan stared at me like he had never truly seen me before. You knew. I nodded slowly. Dad believed leadership should go to the one who earned it. The chairman of the board stood. Then, by the founder's legal instruction, he smiled toward me. Congratulations, Miss Carter. Carter Holdings is now officially yours. For the first time all day, Ethan looked small, not angry, just exposed, because the company he tried to steal was never his to take. And as I stepped into my father's office that evening, the city lights glowing behind the glass, I finally understood what Dad meant. Succession isn't blood, it's wisdom. So if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more powerful real-life drama.